5th, 1937. They attacked a 20-year-old dancer at a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer party, then spent millions to destroy her life and protect her assailant. Tonight, we're exposing her name and 9 other stars the studios erased. These are the stories they never wanted you to hear. Patricia Douglas, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, was hosting what they called a sales convention at the Hal Roach Studios in Culver City. They needed young dancers for entertainment. Patricia Douglas, just 20 years old, thought it would be easy money. A few hours of dancing, collect her pay, go home. She had no idea what she was walking into. When Patricia arrived that evening, the reality became clear immediately. This was not a professional event. 120 Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer salesmen, intoxicated and getting worse by the minute. Liquor flowing freely. Young women brought in not as professional entertainers, but as decorations, as objects. The men grabbed at the dancers, made crude comments. The atmosphere grew increasingly threatening as the night wore on. Patricia tried to stay professional, tried to do her job and leave. But David Ross, a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer salesman, had other plans. He cornered her, told her he wanted to show her something in another room. When she refused, he grabbed her arm, dragged her down a hallway while other salesmen looked away. Some laughed, no one helped. What happened in that hotel room would haunt Patricia Douglas for 66 years. Ross forced himself on her. When she finally escaped, her dress was torn. She was crying, shaking, barely able to stand. A normal person would call the police. Patricia Douglas did exactly that. But attacking someone at a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer event was not a normal situation. And Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was not going to let some 20-year-old dancer threaten their reputation. Within hours, the machine started moving. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency, the same organization that had broken labor strikes and spied on union organizers. But this time, their job was not to find the truth. Their job was to destroy Patricia Douglas. The detectives followed her, interviewed her neighbors, spread rumors that she was a woman of loose morals, that she had invited Ross's attention, that she was trying to extort money from an innocent man. They called her vile names, suggested she worked in the oldest profession, painted her as a liar and a schemer. But Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was not done. They approached the doctor who had examined Patricia after the incident. He had documented evidence of what Ross had done. His medical records were clear. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer offered him money to change his testimony. When he hesitated, they made it clear this was not really a request. The doctor changed his official statement. Now he claimed there was no evidence of anything having happened. No physical evidence at all. Just a hysterical young woman making accusations. Witnesses who had seen Ross drag Patricia away suddenly could not remember anything, or they remembered something completely different. They had seen Patricia flirting with Ross, leading him to the room willingly. Money changed hands. Memories changed too. The district attorney was Buren Fitz. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer happened to be the biggest donor to his campaign. The biggest donor by far. Fitz took the case to a grand jury in June of 1937, but he did not present it like a prosecutor seeking justice. He presented it like a defense attorney protecting David Ross. He emphasized the changed testimonies, the doctor's new statement, the allegations about Patricia's character. The grand jury refused to indict. Case closed. Patricia tried to fight back through civil court. Her lawyer seemed committed at first, aggressive in pursuing the case. Then he announced he was running for district attorney. He would need campaign donations. He would need support from powerful people. He dropped Patricia Douglas as a client. Her lawsuit was dismissed. David Ross faced no consequences. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's reputation remained spotless. And Patricia Douglas? She was blacklisted from every studio in Hollywood. At 20 years old, her career was over before it really began. She stayed silent for 66 years. In 2003, film historian David Sten was researching old Hollywood scandals when he found references to the case. He tracked down court documents, read depositions, found the newspaper articles that Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer had worked so hard to bury. Then he found Patricia Douglas. She was 86 years old, living quietly, still carrying the weight of what had happened to her. For the first time in more than 6 decades, she told her story. She appeared in Sten's documentary, Girl 27, named for how Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer had referred to her in internal documents. Not by name, just a number. She talked about the convention, about David Ross, about how the studio destroyed her life to protect a man who had committed violence against her. She talked about 66 years of silence, of shame, of wondering if anyone would ever believe her. 3 months after finally telling her truth, Patricia Douglas passed away in November of 2003. Years later, when questioned about the incident, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer fixer Eddie Mannix was reported to have said they had her taken care of. Not physically, though the phrasing was deliberately ominous. They had destroyed her career, her reputation, her future. They had erased her from Hollywood, all to protect one man, all to avoid a scandal. May Wong. While Patricia Douglas's career was being destroyed in Hollywood, another woman was facing a different kind of erasure. Not through violence, but through something more insidious, through prejudice so blatant, so systematic, that it would define and ultimately destroy her Hollywood dreams. May Wong was born Wong Liu Tsong in 1905 in Los Angeles. Just blocks from the original Chinatown, she fell in love with movies as a child, watching them being filmed in her neighborhood. By her teens, she was working as an extra, taking any small role she could get. Her breakthrough came in 1922 with The Toll of the Sea. She was 17. The film was beautiful, tragic, and made her a star. For a brief moment, it seemed like Hollywood might be ready for its first Chinese-American leading lady. They were not. Through the 1920s and into the 30s, May Wong appeared in over 60 films. She spoke multiple languages. She was a trained actress with impeccable technique. She was stunningly photogenic. In Europe and Asia, she was celebrated as a major international star. In Hollywood, she could not get a decent role. Studios typecast her as the Dragon Lady, the mysterious, dangerous, exotic villain, or as the submissive servant, or as the tragic figure who passes away at the end to clear the way for a white character's happy ending. She could not play romantic leads. Anti-miscegenation laws and production codes meant she could not be shown in romantic relationships with white actors, since Hollywood rarely made films with all Asian casts. This effectively barred her from ever playing a woman in love. But the most devastating blow came in 1935. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was adapting Pearl S. Buck's novel, The Good Earth, the story of a Chinese farming family struggling through hardship, one of the most important Chinese stories in American literature. Finally, May Wong thought, a role worthy of her talent. She wanted to play Olan, the strong, enduring wife. It was the role she was born to play. She lobbied hard for it. She was the obvious choice, the only established Chinese-American film actress in Hollywood. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer said no. Their reasoning? May Wong was too Chinese to play a Chinese woman. Let that sink in for a moment. Too Chinese to play Chinese. Instead, they cast Louise Brooks, a German actress, in the role. They put Brooks in makeup to make her look Asian, what we now call yellowface. They gave her a Hollywood version of a Chinese accent. Louise Brooks won the Academy Award for Best Actress. May Wong watched from the sidelines, passed over for a role depicting her own heritage in favor of a white woman in makeup. This was not an isolated incident. 3 years earlier, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was casting The Sun Daughter, another film requiring Chinese characters. Again, May Wong was available and interested. Again, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer said she was too Chinese. They cast Helen Hayes, another white actress, in yellowface. The pattern was clear. Hollywood preferred white actresses playing Asian characters over actual Asian talent. They preferred fake accents over authentic voices. They preferred makeup over reality. May Wong left Hollywood twice for Europe. In England, France, and Germany, she was treated as the serious actress she was. She was given complex roles. She was celebrated. Film critics praised her work. Audiences adored her. But she kept coming back to Hollywood. It was her home. Los Angeles was where she was born, where she grew up. She kept hoping things would change. They never did. By the 1950s, her film career was essentially over. She made a few television appearances, small roles, nothing substantial. She talked about wanting to show the humanity of Chinese people on screen, wanting to break free of stereotypes. But Hollywood was not interested in that story. May Wong passed away in 1961 at 56 years old. In Europe, her obituaries celebrated her as an icon. In Hollywood, they barely mentioned her. For decades after her passing, she was largely forgotten in American film history. The first Chinese-American film star erased from the narrative. Her groundbreaking work was dismissed. Her struggle against prejudice was ignored. Only in recent years has film history begun to reckon with how Hollywood treated May Wong, how they deliberately chose white actresses over her, how they confined her to stereotypes based on prejudice, how they erased her contributions to cinema. Rock Hudson, the 1950s. May Wong's career was fading while another star was rising. Rock Hudson, tall, handsome, the perfect leading man. Women across America swooned over him. He was the romantic ideal, the man every woman wanted. What audiences did not know was that Rock Hudson's entire public persona was built on a lie, and Hollywood made sure that lie was maintained no matter the cost. Rock Hudson was born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in 1925. He was not a natural actor. He had to take lessons to learn how to walk, how to stand, and how to project masculinity on screen. But with the right coaching and his classic good looks, he became a star by the early 1950s. Off-screen, he was in love with a man named Lee Garlington, a stockbroker. They met in 1952. Hudson later described it as the love of his life, but they could never live together. Could never be seen together in public. Had to meet in secret, hide their relationship, live in constant fear of exposure. Because in 1950s America, being revealed as homosexual would not just end your career, it could end your freedom. It was literally illegal in most states. In 1955, Confidential magazine got wind of his secret. They had sources, former lovers willing to talk. They were preparing to publish an expose that would destroy him. Hudson's agent, Henry Wilson, went into crisis mode. Wilson himself was gay, though publicly closeted. Wilson made a deal with Confidential. He would give them 2 other stories, scandals involving 2 of his less profitable clients, Tab Hunter and Rory Calhoun. In exchange, Confidential would stop the Rock Hudson story. The magazine agreed. Hunter and Calhoun's secrets were published. Their careers took hits. Hudson's secret remained safe. But Wilson knew it was not enough. Life magazine was preparing a cover story. Hollywood's most handsome bachelor. Fans were starting to ask questions. Why was not Rock Hudson married? Wilson gave Hudson an ultimatum. You have 2 months to get married or your career is over. Hudson had a choice. Come out, lose everything, possibly face legal consequences, or marry a woman, live a lie, protect his career. It was not really a choice at all. On November 9th, 1955, Rock Hudson married Phyllis Gates. She was Henry Wilson's secretary. Some sources claim she knew it was a lavender marriage, a sham to hide homosexuality. Others suggest she genuinely thought she was marrying the man she loved. The marriage was a publicity dream. Life magazine got their story. Fan magazines celebrated. Hudson's career was safe. Behind closed doors, it was misery. The marriage lasted 3 years. Gates grew increasingly suspicious. When she filed for divorce, she hired a private investigator who secretly recorded a conversation between them. In that recording, Gates confronted Hudson about his affairs with men. Hudson admitted to it. Gates's lawyer used the recording to negotiate the divorce settlement. They threatened to make it public if Hudson did not pay. Hudson agreed to give Gates their home in the Hollywood Hills, $250 per week for 10 years if she did not remarry, and stock in his production company. But the most tragic part was not the failed marriage or the blackmail. It was that Rock Hudson spent his entire career living a lie. He never had a public relationship with a man, never acknowledged his true self, never experienced the freedom to be open about who he loved. Hudson continued to be Hollywood's romantic leading man through the 1960s and 70s. He starred opposite Doris Day. He played heroes who swept women off their feet. Every kiss on screen was a performance of heterosexuality he did not feel. In 1984, Hudson was diagnosed with a terminal illness. In 1985, his publicist announced the diagnosis. The world learned the truth. Rock Hudson was seriously ill, and the implications were clear. He passed away on October 2, 1985, at 59 years old. Only after his passing did the full truth of his private life become public knowledge. The studio system had forced Rock Hudson to marry a woman he did not love, to hide his true relationships, to live in constant fear. They erased his authentic identity and replaced it with a fabrication designed to sell movie tickets. Ava Gardner. While Rock Hudson was performing heterosexuality on screen, actual heterosexual relationships in Hollywood came with their own forms of control, particularly for women, particularly regarding their bodies. Ava Gardner was one of the most beautiful women in the world, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's top star in the 1950s. She had the face that launched 1,000 magazine covers, the voice that made men weak, the presence that commanded every room she entered. But Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer did not just own her image. They owned her body, and they made sure she knew it. Gardner's contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer included what the studio called penalty clauses. These clauses specified that if she became pregnant, her salary would be cut off. Her career would be destroyed. She would be in breach of contract. This was not unusual. Most female stars had similar clauses. Studios viewed pregnancy as incompatible with stardom. A pregnant actress could not maintain the glamorous image studios sold. could not fit into the costumes, could not perform love scenes. So pregnancy simply could not happen. Ava Gardner married Frank Sinatra in 1951. It was her third marriage. She had previously been married to Mickey Rooney and bandleader Artie Shaw. But Sinatra was different. The press called them the perfect couple, the singer and the screen goddess. Behind the scenes, it was tumultuous. They fought constantly. Both drank heavily. Both had volcanic tempers. But there was genuine love there, or at least genuine passion. In 1952, Gardner was filming Mogambo in Africa with Clark Gable and director John Ford. She discovered she was pregnant with Sinatra's child. Ford, who had known Gardner for years, begged her not to terminate the pregnancy. He told her she would make a wonderful mother, that this could be the best thing that ever happened to her. But Gardner was terrified. She later admitted that the prospect of motherhood frightened her deeply. She was not sure she could handle it, was not sure she wanted it. And besides, Sinatra was broke. His career had crashed, he had no income. She was the breadwinner. She had to keep working. More than that, she had those penalty clauses. If she went through with the pregnancy, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer would end her contract. Her career would be over. Her income would vanish. With Sinatra struggling financially and her career on the line, Gardner felt she had no choice. She had the procedure without telling Sinatra. He found out after she had already gone through with it. His manager later recalled Sinatra's rage when he learned what happened. The manager said Sinatra wanted to harm Gardner physically for what she had done, but loved her too much to actually do it. The termination damaged their marriage, but they stayed together for a while. Then Gardner became pregnant again. This time, Sinatra knew. This time, he went with her for the procedure. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer even helped arrange the travel. They made sure their star could take care of the problem quietly and get back to work. This second termination was the final blow to the marriage. Gardner and Sinatra separated in 1953. The divorce was finalized in 1957. Years later, Gardner spoke about her regrets. Not about the marriage ending, that seemed inevitable given their personalities, but about not having children, about choosing her career over motherhood because the studio gave her no other choice. In interviews late in her life, she expressed what she wished she had instead of her film career. She mentioned a good marriage, and children specifically. She talked about what she called the things most important to a woman in traditional terms. She passed away in 1990 at 67 years old. By then, she had been retired from acting for years. She had the mansion, the fame, the iconic status. But she never had the family she might have wanted. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer did not explicitly force Ava Gardner to terminate her pregnancies. The contract clauses did that. The threat of financial ruin did that. The knowledge that pregnancy meant career destruction did that. The studio created a system where women had to choose between their bodies and their livelihoods, where motherhood and stardom were mutually exclusive, where a woman's reproductive choices were controlled not by her own desires, but by penalty clauses in a contract. If you're shocked by these stories, we're just getting started. Hit that subscribe button because what we're uncovering about Hollywood's golden age will change how you see classic films forever. The glamour was real, but so was the cruelty. Dorothy Dandridge. Ava Gardner's story of forced medical procedures was shocking, but at least she was white. At least she had some power, some ability to negotiate her career even within the studio system's constraints. For Dorothy Dandridge, being a black woman in Hollywood meant facing everything white actresses faced, and so much worse. Dorothy Dandridge was not supposed to exist, not as Hollywood defined existence. She was beautiful in a way that did not fit the industry's prejudiced stereotypes. She was talented in ways they refused to acknowledge. And in 1954, she did something that should have changed everything. She became the first black woman ever nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her performance in Carmen Jones was electric. She played the seductive, tragic Carmen with such force that even prejudiced Hollywood could not entirely ignore her. She appeared on the cover of Life magazine, the first black actress to achieve that. 20th Century Fox signed her to a 3-picture deal. She was dating the film's director, Otto Preminger. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But Preminger, for all his seeming support, was not actually on her side. He advised her to only accept starring roles, to turn down supporting parts, no matter how good the film. He convinced her that she needed to maintain her status, wait for the right opportunities. It was terrible advice. In 1950s Hollywood, there were almost no starring roles for black actresses in major films. By being so selective, Dandridge was essentially ensuring she would not work. Then in 1955, she became pregnant with Preminger's child. The studio's response was immediate. If she wanted to remain a pin-up symbol, they told her, she could not have a baby. The pregnancy needed to be dealt with. Quickly, quietly, Dandridge complied. She had the procedure. Preminger, despite getting her pregnant, had no intention of leaving his wife. He refused to marry her. The relationship ended not long after. But the larger problem was not just Preminger's betrayal. It was that Hollywood had no idea what to do with Dorothy Dandridge. They would not cast her opposite white actors in romantic roles. The production code and anti-miscegenation attitudes meant that was impossible. A black woman kissing a white man on screen? Unthinkable. They offered her The King and I. But as Tuptim, the Burmese slave, Dandridge, still following Preminger's advice, turned it down. The role went to Rita Moreno. The film became one of the biggest hits of 1956. Dandridge's career momentum was gone. The brief window after her Oscar nomination closed. She made a few more films, but nothing that captured the same attention. Meanwhile, fan magazines largely ignored her. While white actresses got full pictorial spreads and breathless coverage of their personal lives, Dandridge was relegated to occasional mentions. The mainstream press did not know how to market a black actress who did not fit their stereotypes. By the late 1950s, work was drying up. Her finances, always managed by others, turned out to have been badly mismanaged. She discovered she had been swindled out of $150,000. She owed $139,000 in back income levies. She lost her Hollywood home. She lost custody of her daughter, Harolyn, who had been born with developmental difficulties and required institutional care. The financial collapse meant she could not afford her daughter's care. Her career was over. Her money was gone. Her daughter was in a state institution. Her dreams were shattered. On September 8, 1965, Dorothy Dandridge was found unresponsive on the floor of her small apartment. She was 42 years old. The coroner ruled it an accidental overdose of medication for dealing with mental anguish. She had been Hollywood's groundbreaking black star, the first to achieve things that should have opened doors. Instead, those doors slammed shut. The studios had forced her to end a pregnancy. They had refused to cast her in roles she deserved because of her ethnicity. They had offered her only stereotypical or subservient parts. They had relegated her to the margins of their publicity machine. And when her career collapsed, they did nothing to help her. They let her fall into financial ruin. They let her disappear. For decades after her passing, Dorothy Dandridge was largely forgotten. Film histories mentioned her Oscar nomination as a footnote. Her contributions to breaking racial barriers were acknowledged in passing. But her story, her struggle, her systematic erasure by the studio system, that was ignored. Only in recent years, particularly after Halle Berry won the Best Actress Oscar in 2001 and dedicated it to Dandridge, has there been renewed interest in her life and career. But the damage was done long ago. Hollywood had its moment to embrace Dorothy Dandridge, to build on the foundation she had created. Instead, they controlled her body, limited her opportunities, and then abandoned her when she needed help. Louise Brooks. Dorothy Dandridge's erasure happened gradually through neglect and prejudice, but sometimes Hollywood's destruction was more direct, more vindictive. Sometimes they did not just let a career fade, they actively destroyed it with lies. Louise Brooks understood that better than almost anyone. In 1928, Brooks was one of Paramount Pictures' rising stars. She had the look that defined the era, the iconic bob haircut, the modern sensibility, the natural screen presence that needed no artifice. She was funny, smart, and talented. She was also stubborn, and that would cost her everything. Brooks had signed a contract with Paramount, but she felt they were not giving her the roles she deserved. She was being typecast, underutilized, underpaid. When the studio refused her a raise, she believed she had been promised. She did something almost no actor dared to do. She quit. In the middle of her contract, Brooks walked away from Paramount. She sailed to Germany to work with director Georg Wilhelm Papst on a film called Pandora's Box. It was a risk, leaving Hollywood for an uncertain European project. But Brooks believed in the film and in her own talent. She was right to believe. Pandora's Box is now considered a masterpiece of silent cinema. Brooks's performance is regularly cited as one of the greatest of the era. In Europe, she was celebrated as a serious artist. Back in Hollywood, Paramount was furious. While Brooks was in Germany, the film industry was undergoing a revolution. Silent films were being converted to talkies, sound films. Studios were scrambling to add sound to movies they had already shot as silents. Paramount needed Brooks to come back for sound retakes on The Canary Murder Case, a film she had completed before leaving for Europe. They contacted her. Come back. Do the retakes. Fulfill your obligations. Brooks refused. She later said she hated Hollywood, hated California, and was not going back. The studio could finish the film without her. Paramount head B.P. Schulberg was livid. He had lost control of one of his contracted stars. She had defied him, ignored his demands, prioritized her own artistic vision over studio interests. So he destroyed her. Schulberg began spreading a lie through the industry. He told other studio heads, told gossip columnists, told anyone who would listen. Louise Brooks' voice did not record well. She was unsuitable for taking pictures. Her voice was the problem. It was completely false. Brooks' voice was fine. Actually better than fine. It was clear, well modulated, with good diction and natural delivery. You can hear it in her later sound films. There was absolutely nothing wrong with her voice. But the lie worked. By the time Brooks returned to the United States in late 1929, she was radioactive. No major studio would touch her. They had all heard that her voice was unsuitable for talkies. Why risk it? At 29 years old, her career was essentially over. Director William Wellman, who had worked with Brooks on Beggars of Life, offered her the female lead in The Public Enemy. It would have been a career-saving role opposite James Cagney, but Brooks turned it down. She wanted to visit her lover in New York. She did not think the role was important enough to change her plans. The role went to Jean Harlow instead. Harlow became a superstar. Brooks's last chance evaporated. She declared bankruptcy in 1932. She was reduced to dancing in nightclubs to survive. She took whatever work she could get, bit parts, B-movies, anything. Her final film was in 1938, a low-budget Western opposite an unknown actor named John Wayne. After that, nothing. She was 32 years old, and her film career was completely finished. For the next decade and a half, Brooks lived in obscurity, working odd jobs, struggling financially, largely forgotten by the industry that had once courted her. It was not until the 1950s that film historians in Europe rediscovered her work. They screened Pandora's box and were stunned by her performance. They called her a genius, an artist ahead of her time. James Card, a film curator at the Eastman House, tracked Brooks down and convinced her to move to Rochester, New York. There, she began writing about her experiences in Hollywood. Her essays were brilliant, sharp, insightful, and unsparing in their honesty about the studio system's corruption. Those essays were collected in her 1982 book, Lulu in Hollywood. Film critics called her writing fearlessly intelligent. The New York Times praised her brutal honesty. But by then, she was in her 70s. Her career could not be revived. She could only reflect on what Hollywood had taken from her. Louise Brooks passed away in 1985, at 78 years old. By then, she was recognized as an icon of silent cinema. But that recognition came too late to give her the career she deserved. Paramount Pictures had destroyed her with a lie because she dared to defy them. They spread false information about her voice, poisoned her reputation, and ensured no other studio would hire her. They did not just fire her. They made sure she could never work again. John Gilbert, Louise Brooks was destroyed for defying her studio. But sometimes, erasure was even more personal. Sometimes it comes down to one powerful man's vendetta. One moment of rage that ended a career. John Gilbert learned that lesson the hard way. In the 1920s, Gilbert was the biggest male star at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. He was making $250,000 per film, equivalent to over $4 million in today's currency. Women fainted at his appearances. He was more popular than Rudolph Valentino. His romantic scenes with Greta Garbo were legendary. He was untouchable, or so he thought. In September of 1926, a double wedding was planned. Gilbert would marry Greta Garbo. Director King Vidor would marry actress Eleanor Boardman. It was supposed to be Hollywood's biggest social event, but Garbo did not show up. Gilbert was devastated, intoxicated, and furious. Louis B. Mayer, the head of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, was at the wedding venue. He tried to console Gilbert, but Meyer's attempt at comfort came out wrong. According to Eleanor Boardman, who witnessed the exchange, Meyer made a crude comment about Garbo. He suggested Gilbert did not need to marry her. He could simply engage in intimate relations with her without the formality of marriage. He used coarse language to make his point. Gilbert, already emotional, snapped. He punched Mayer in the face, slammed his head against the wall. Mayer's glasses flew off. Studio fixer Eddie Mannix had to physically pull them apart. When Mayer recovered, he made a promise. "You're finished, Gilbert. I'll destroy you if it costs me $1 million." He meant it. The late 1920s were seeing the transition from silent films to talkies. Sound was revolutionizing the industry. Some stars adapted easily, others struggled. Mayer made sure John Gilbert struggled. He started spreading rumors. Gilbert's voice, Mayer claimed, was too high-pitched for sound films. It was unsuitable. Audiences would not accept it. It was completely untrue. Film historians have analyzed Gilbert's voice in his sound films. It was perfectly normal. Average male range, perhaps a bit flat or nasal, but nothing problematic. Certainly not high-pitched. But the truth did not matter. Mayer had the power to plant stories in fan magazines, to whisper in other executives' ears, to create a narrative that destroyed Gilbert's reputation before audiences even heard his voice. Then Mayer sabotaged Gilbert's films. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer cast Gilbert in His Glorious Night, his first major sound film. The script was terrible. Overwrought melodrama with absurd dialogue. Gilbert's character had to repeatedly proclaim his love with lines so purple, they would have been laughable in any era. When the film premiered, audiences laughed. Not at the character, at Gilbert himself. The great romantic idol of silent films looked ridiculous speaking such awful dialogue. His next film, Redemption, was even worse. Depressing, badly written, with Gilbert forced into exaggerated stage acting that looked absurd on film. The pattern was clear. Mayer was giving Gilbert the worst scripts, the worst directors, the worst possible conditions to succeed. Gilbert was kept under his expensive contract, which prevented other studios from hiring him, but given only terrible projects. By 1930, Gilbert had made 3 consecutive failures. His career was in ruins. Other studios saw the failures and believed the rumors about his voice. Why hire an expensive star who audiences laughed at? Gilbert became increasingly depressed. His drinking worsened. He felt trapped, bound by an expensive contract to a studio that was deliberately sabotaging him. In 1933, Greta Garbo insisted Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer cast Gilbert opposite her in Queen Christina. It was an attempt to save his career, but by then, it was too late. One good film could not undo years of systematic destruction. John Gilbert passed away in January of 1936, at just 38 years old. The official cause was listed as a cardiac event, but those close to him knew alcohol abuse and despair had played major roles. Louis B. Mayer had made good on his promise. He destroyed John Gilbert. And while it probably cost Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer money, Gilbert had been a genuine box office draw. Mayer did not care. Personal vendettas trumped profit. This was not a systemic erasure or institutional prejudice. This was one powerful man deciding to destroy another man's career because of a punch at a wedding. And he succeeded completely. For decades, John Gilbert was remembered primarily as a failed silent star who could not adapt to sound. The truth, that he was deliberately sabotaged, was obscured. Only in recent years have film historians set the record straight. Gilbert's voice was fine. His talent was real. What destroyed him was Louis B. Mayer's vindictiveness and power. Loretta Young. Louis B. Mayer destroyed John Gilbert over a personal grudge. But sometimes the studio system's cruelty was not about vendetta. Sometimes it was simply about control, about maintaining the illusion at any cost. Even if that cost was forcing a woman to hide her own child. Loretta Young was 22 years old in 1935. She was beautiful, talented, deeply Catholic, and starred in a film called The Call of the Wild opposite Clark Gable. The production was filmed on location in the remote mountains of Washington State. The cast and crew were isolated, cut off by snow, spending weeks together in close quarters. Loretta Young and Clark Gable began an affair. Gable was married to his second wife, Rhea Langham. He was also 34, 12 years older than Young. But isolated in the mountains, professional boundaries dissolved. Young later claimed, much later, that what happened was not consensual. In 1998, when she was 85 years old, she told her daughter-in-law about learning the concept of intimate assault without consent while watching Larry King live. She said she had always blamed herself for not fending him off. She had not understood, she said, that what happened to her was not her fault. But in 1935, Young did not have that language. She only knew she was pregnant, and she was terrified. Her Catholic faith meant terminating the pregnancy was absolutely out of the question. It was a mortal sin. She could not even consider it. But carrying the pregnancy to term meant career destruction. Every actress in Hollywood had morality clauses in their contracts. Pregnancy out of wedlock was grounds for immediate termination. The studios would drop her. The press would destroy her. Her career would be over at 22. So Loretta Young made a plan that required hiding her own body, hiding the truth, hiding her child. She claimed she was ill, too ill to work. She went to Europe, she told the press. For her health. Actually, she went into hiding. Young spent her pregnancy at her mother's house in Venice, California. She stayed indoors, avoided being seen. Let the studio and the press believe she was overseas recovering from exhaustion. On November 6, 1935, she gave birth to a daughter. She named her Judith, then she gave her away. Young placed Judith in an orphanage, her own daughter in an institution, for 19 months. Meanwhile, Young returned to work. She resumed her career. She smiled for the cameras. She played the glamorous star. No one knew about the baby she had just abandoned. In 1937, Young made an announcement. She was adopting 2 girls from orphanages. How generous, how kind. America's sweetheart, giving homes to children in need. A few weeks later, another announcement. One of the adoptions had fallen through. Too bad. But she still had one adopted daughter. That daughter was Judith. Her own biological child, now presented to the world as an adopted orphan. The lie was elaborate and total. Young altered Judith's birth date in the official records. She told everyone the adoption story. She treated Judith publicly as an adopted child, not her biological daughter. But Judith looked exactly like Clark Gable. The same ears, the same jaw, the same distinctive features. Hollywood insiders knew. They saw the resemblance. They understood what had happened. But nobody said anything. The press did not investigate. Studios did not question. Everyone participated in the lie. Because that was how the system worked. Stars who played by the rules, who protected the studio's investment in their image, received protection in return. The studios enabled Young's cover-up by staying silent. In 1950, Clark Gable visited Loretta Young's home. Judith, who was 15 years old, met him. They spoke briefly. It was the only time Gable ever met his daughter. He did not know she was his. She did not know he was her father. When Judith was 23 and engaged to be married, her fiancé told her something. Everyone in Hollywood knew Clark Gable was her father. Everyone had always known. Judith confronted her mother. At first, Young denied it. But eventually, when Judith was 31, Young admitted the truth privately. She was Judith's biological mother. Gable was her biological father. But Young never admitted it publicly during her lifetime. Never. Her autobiography, which was published after her passing, finally acknowledged what had happened. Judith Lewis, who eventually took that surname, wrote her own memoir in 1994. She described growing up feeling something was wrong, knowing she looked like Gable, wondering why her mother treated her differently than her other children. She described the pain of learning the truth, the anger at being lied to for decades, the confusion about why her own mother had hidden her. Loretta Young passed away in 2000 at 87 years old. Judith had forgiven her by then, but the damage was permanent. The studios did not directly order Young to hide her pregnancy. They did not force her to place Judith in an orphanage. They did not demand the adoption cover story. But they created the system that left her no other choice. The morality clauses meant pregnancy out of wedlock equaled career termination. The production code meant Hollywood promoted an impossible standard of virtue. The press meant any scandal would be amplified and weaponized. The studios did not need to give explicit orders. They had built a system so controlling, so punishing, so intolerant of women's humanity that Young felt she had to deny her own motherhood for decades. That system erased Judith's true identity for 31 years. It forced a family to live a lie that damaged multiple generations. The studios participated through their silence. They knew. They all knew. And they said nothing, because protecting the illusion mattered more than truth, more than a child's right to know her parents, more than a woman's right to motherhood. Which of these stories shocked you most? Drop it in the comments and let us know what Golden Age Hollywood topic you want us to investigate next. There are so many secrets still buried in those studio archives. William Haynes, Loretta Young lost years with her daughter because of the studio system, but at least she eventually got to be a mother. Even if the circumstances were tragic, at least she survived with her career intact. Some stars were given a choice that was not really a choice at all. Authenticity or stardom, truth or career, love or Hollywood. William Haynes chose love, and Hollywood erased him for it. In 1928, Haynes was the #1 box office draw in America. Not just popular, #1. More successful than Greta Garbo, Clark Gable, Joan Crawford. He was Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's golden boy. Funny, charming, handsome in an approachable way. Audiences adored him. Off-screen, Haynes lived a relatively open secret. Among friends and Hollywood insiders, everyone knew he was gay. He had been in a relationship with a man named Jimmy Shields since 1926. They lived together, though publicly they were described as roommates. For a few years, it worked. Haynes was too profitable for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to care about his private life. His films made money. That was what mattered. Then came 1933. Haynes was arrested at the Young Men's Christian Association, the YMCA, with a sailor. It was a vice squad raid. The charges were related to inappropriate behavior. The arrest made it to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's attention immediately. Louis B. Mayer called Haynes into his office. The same Louis B. Mayer who had destroyed John Gilbert over a punch. The same man who ruled Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer with absolute authority. Mayer gave Haynes an ultimatum. Marry a woman. A lavender marriage like Rock Hudson would later be forced into. Hide your relationship with Shields. Maintain the illusion of heterosexuality. Continue your career. Or refuse and lose everything. It was the standard Hollywood solution to the problem of homosexuality. Other stars had accepted this deal. They had married women they did not love, lived double lives, protected their careers. Haynes said no. He would not marry a woman. He would not live a lie. He would not hide Jimmy Shields. If Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer could not accept who he was, then Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer could fire him. So they did. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer terminated Haynes' contract in 1933. He was at the peak of his popularity. His last film had been a success. He could have continued making profitable movies for years. But Mayer blacklisted him, not just from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, from all the studios. Mayer had that kind of power. He made sure every studio head in Hollywood knew that William Haynes was unemployable. At 33 years old, Haynes' acting career was over. The erasure was systematic. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer pulled his films from active circulation. They stopped promoting his past work. His name largely disappeared from studio histories. For decades, he was barely mentioned in accounts of Hollywood's golden age. New film fans grew up never hearing about the man who was once the biggest star in America. But here is where Haynes' story differs from most of the others. Because Haynes did not let Hollywood's rejection destroy him. He had always been interested in interior design. He had decorated his own home beautifully. Friends had complimented his taste. So Haynes became an interior designer. He and Jimmy Shields started a business together. Haynes turned out to be brilliant at design. His first major clients were his old Hollywood friends. Joan Crawford hired him to design her home. Then Carol Lombard. Then Jack Warner, ironically, one of the studio heads who had participated in blacklisting him. Haynes became one of the most sought-after interior designers in Los Angeles. He built a successful business that eventually made him more money than his acting career ever had. More importantly, he did it all while living openly with Jimmy Shields. They did not hide their relationship. They lived together in Beverly Hills. They attended social events together. They built a life that was authentic and open in a way almost no gay men could in that era. Haynes and Shields were together for 47 years. When Haynes passed away in 1973 at age 73, Shields was devastated. He passed away just 2 years later. Before his passing, Haynes gave an interview about his decision to leave Hollywood. He said he did not need their money. He had Jimmy. That was what mattered. He never expressed regret about choosing love over stardom. William Haynes' story is unique among these 10 because it has something the others lack. A happy ending, or at least a bittersweet one. Yes, Hollywood erased him. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer deliberately ended his career and removed him from their narrative. For choosing to be authentic, for refusing to hide who he loved. They blacklisted him completely. But Haynes won in the end. He built a new career. He lived openly with the man he loved for nearly 5 decades. He passed away successful, happy, and authentic. Most of the stars in this video were destroyed by the studio system and never recovered. Dorothy Dandridge passed away broke and forgotten. John Gilbert drank himself into an early grave. Patricia Douglas carried trauma for 66 years. But William Haynes refused to let them break him. He walked away on his own terms and built something better. Hollywood erased him from their history because he was inconvenient, because he was gay, because he would not play their game. For decades, that erasure worked. New generations knew nothing about William Haynes, the man who was once the biggest star in the world. Only recently have film historians begun restoring his name to the record, acknowledging his importance, telling his story. But the erasure was real. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer deliberately removed him from their narrative, pulled his films from circulation, and blacklisted him industry-wide. The difference is that Haynes did not let that define him. He found happiness anyway. That makes his story both inspiring and tragic. Inspiring because he survived. Tragic because he never should have had to make that choice in the first place. Barbara Payton. William Haynes chose authenticity and found happiness outside Hollywood. His story, while marked by erasure, ended with something resembling triumph. But not every story has even that bittersweet redemption. Sometimes the erasure is absolute. Sometimes it ends in tragedy so complete that it serves as a warning about what Hollywood's power could do to those who fell from grace. Barbara Payton's story is that warning. In 1950, Payton was Hollywood's newest sensation. She had the looks that reminded people of Jean Harlow. Platinum blonde, sultry, magnetic on screen. She starred opposite James Cagney in Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Warner Brothers signed her to a contract worth $10,000 per week, equivalent to over $120,000 in today's currency. Her future looked unlimited. Stardom seemed guaranteed. Then came the love triangle. Payton was engaged to actor Franchot Tone. Tone was older, sophisticated, formerly married to Joan Crawford. He represented stability in Hollywood aristocracy. But Payton met another actor at a pool party, Tom Neal. He was handsome, intense, and volatile. Payton began an affair with Neal while still engaged to Tone. The press covered the triangle extensively. Payton went back and forth between the two men publicly. It was dramatic, scandalous, exactly the kind of story tabloids loved. On September 14th, 1951, the situation exploded. Tom Neal and Franchot Tone confronted each other outside Payton's home. An argument escalated into violence. Neal had been a college boxer. He beat Tone savagely. Tone ended up with a smashed cheekbone, broken nose, and brain concussion. He was in a coma for 18 hours. He required extensive hospitalization and facial reconstruction. The incident made national headlines. Public opinion turned against both Payton and Neal. 2 weeks later, Payton married Tone anyway, perhaps out of guilt. Perhaps because she felt she owed him after what Neal had done. Perhaps because marrying him seemed like the way to salvage her reputation. The marriage lasted 53 days. Payton left Tone and returned to Neal. Tone filed for divorce, citing adultery. But he did not stop there. Franchot Tone took compromising photographs he had of Payton with Neal, intimate photographs, explicit evidence of their affair, and mailed copies to every major studio head in Hollywood. The photographs were devastating. The message was clear. Payton was morally unfit. She was a woman of low character, though she should not be employable in Hollywood. The studios agreed. Warner Brothers dropped her contract immediately. Every other major studio refused to hire her. Tom Neal, who had committed the actual violence, was also blacklisted. The studios did not initiate Payton's destruction. Franchot Tone did. He weaponized those photographs. He deliberately sent them to destroy her career. But the studios participated fully in the erasure. They could have ignored Tone's vendetta. They could have recognized it for what it was, a spurned man trying to destroy his ex-wife's career. They could have looked at Payton's actual work, her actual talent, her actual box office potential. They chose not to. Instead, they participated in the blacklist. They agreed that Payton was unemployable. They made sure every studio in town knew she was to be avoided. In 1953, Payton and Neal tried to capitalize on their notoriety. They toured in a stage production of The Postman Always Rings Twice. It failed. Neal eventually gave up on acting. He became a landscaper. But in 1965, he was convicted of taking the life of his second wife. He served 6 years in prison and passed away just 8 months after his release. Payton's trajectory was even more devastating. Without her career, she spiraled. She developed a severe alcohol dependency. She lost custody of her son. Her finances collapsed. By 1955, she was being arrested on Sunset Boulevard. The platinum blonde star, who had once commanded $10,000 per week, was now engaging in activities for survival money. She wrote an autobiography, I Am Not Ashamed, published in 1963. It was brutal in its honesty. She described her fall from stardom, her substance issues, her desperation. But the book did not save her. It just provided a written record of her destruction. Barbara Payton passed away on May 8, 1967. She was 39 years old. The cause was heart and liver failure from years of alcohol abuse. The studios had the power to ignore Franchot Tone's vendetta. They had the power to say that personal vendettas should not dictate casting decisions. They had the power to separate an actress's work from her personal life. They chose not to exercise that power. When Payton needed help, when substance dependency and financial ruin were destroying her, Hollywood offered nothing. They had profited from her beauty and talent for years. But when she was no longer profitable, they discarded her. Barbara Payton's story is the darkest in this collection. There is no redemption, no happy ending, no triumph over adversity. Just absolute erasure, complete destruction, and a woman who passed away at 39 after losing everything. Her story shows what happened when you fell from grace in Hollywood, and the entire industry decided you deserved no second chance. When your mistakes were weaponized and every door slammed shut. When erasure was not just about removing you from the screen, it was about removing you from life itself. Before we go, hit that like button if this video opens your eyes to Hollywood's dark history. Share it with anyone who loves old Hollywood. They need to know the truth behind the glamour. 10 stars. 10 different paths to erasure. Patricia Douglas, attacked at a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer event. Her assailant protected while she was destroyed. May Wong, too Chinese to play Chinese, passed over for roles that should have been hers. Hudson, forced into a fake marriage to hide who he loved. Ava Gardner, forced to choose between motherhood and career. Dorothy Dandridge, controlled, limited, and abandoned by the studios that made history with her nomination. Louise Brooks, destroyed by lies about her voice for daring to defy Paramount. Gilbert, systematically sabotaged by Louis B. Mayer's personal vendetta. Loretta Young, forced by the system to hide her own daughter. Haynes, blacklisted for refusing to live a lie. Payton, erased through industry-wide complicity in one man's revenge. The patterns are clear. Studios erased stars for who they loved. They excluded them because of ethnicity. They blacklisted them for defiance. They covered up violence against them. They controlled women's bodies and reproductive choices. They participated in industry-wide destruction when it served their interests. The methods varied. Morality clauses that controlled private lives. Lies spread through the press. Industry-wide blacklists. Cover-ups and conspiracies. Violence, both physical and systemic. These 10 represent hundreds more. Thousands, perhaps. We will never know all their names. Studios destroyed records. Victims stayed silent from fear. Careers ended quietly, without fanfare, without anyone to bear witness. History was rewritten. Stars were deliberately erased. The studio system officially ended in 1948 with the Paramount decision, the antitrust case that broke up the studio's monopolistic control. But power dynamics continued for decades. Erasure continued in different forms. Recent movements have revealed that Hollywood has not changed as much as we might hope. Power still protects power. Victims are still silenced. Careers are still destroyed for speaking the truth. But tonight, we have restored 10 names to the record. Patricia Douglas, May Wong, Hudson, Ava Gardner, Dorothy Dandridge, Louise Brooks, Gilbert, Loretta Young, Haynes, Payton. Their stories deserve to be remembered. They deserve to be part of Hollywood history, not erased from it. They were talented, beautiful, and charismatic. They could have given us so much more. The studios took that from them. And for too long, they successfully erased these stories from the narrative. Hollywood built an empire on their talent, then deliberately erased them when they became inconvenient. Some for who they loved, some for what they looked like, some for daring to say no, some for being victims, some for being human. We have restored their names tonight, but how many more are still forgotten? How many stories were so completely erased that we will never know them? How many names were removed from the credits before the film even premiered? When you watch old Hollywood films now, think about who is missing. Think about the stars who never got their chance because of their ethnicity or who they loved. Think about the actresses who had to choose between motherhood and career. Think about the men blacklisted for refusing to live lies. Think about all the talent that was erased, all the stories that were silenced, all the lives that were controlled and destroyed. The glamour was real. The beauty was real. The magic of those films was real. But so was the cruelty. So was the control. So was the systematic erasure of anyone who threatened the illusion. These 10 stars paid the price for Hollywood's golden age. Their careers, their families, their identities, their lives. The least we can do is remember their names. If this documentary opened your eyes to Hollywood's hidden history, please share it. These stories need to be told. These names need to be remembered. Subscribe to this channel for more forgotten Hollywood stories. There are so many more secrets buried in those studio archives. So many more names waiting to be restored to history. Thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing witness to these 10 stars the studios deliberately erased. Their talent deserved better. Their humanity deserved better. Their stories deserve to be remembered.